in the country and maybe go on to win the Heisman. What would your response be to that?
Well, first off, using Ashton as an example, I mean, he had every opportunity to leave to go somewhere else. And I'm not going to name schools, but from an illegal recruitment standpoint, he could have gone anywhere, and they would have been on full display wherever he went. But he's a guy that's committed to us. He's loyal. He wants to be a part of a team, and he's a unanimous captain as a 20-year-old. Never's happened in my time here where an underclassman's unanimous captain. That's a testament to who he is as a person, how he leads in his actions and how he works. Because if anybody has a question about what to do, I just say, watch Ashton Jeanty every day.
Spencer Danielson, you caught that here on KTIK, but not with Prater and Johnny Ballgame over here, with Zach Gelb on the national Zach Gelb show that is back on the daily lineup here on KTIK, but it even gets better, Mike Prater. Zach Gelb before Idaho Sports Talk, not after, not, oh, you're not going to get Gelb because we're airing a game here or there. Zach Gelb at 1 o'clock every single day, Mountain Time, weekdays, to lead up to Prater and the Ball Game. He joins us right now. This is our video segment. Welcome in our Dollar Loan Center video audience. And Zach Gelb, that was your interview, and dude, welcome back to Boise. This is going to be so much fun, Zach.
John, Mike, I am thrilled to be here, and thanks so much for having me. And it's awesome to be back on the KTIK team. And I'll say this, I know a thing or two about having pigs in the blanket when I go to a wedding or I go to a bar mitzvah, whatever it is. And it's my honor to be the pigs in the blanket to the filet mignon each and every day of Prater and the Ball Game.
Oh, I love that ball game. We need a serious lead into our show. And we appreciate it. We appreciate your national perspective, and I can't wait to make this happen, and it's all fun and games. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate you guys getting me back in the lineup. So we're going to have a lot of fun.
We wanted live. Zach Gelb is live. We were tape delaying the Rich Eisen show. Mad respect to Rich and his show, but we wanted live, and we wanted more football. We wanted more college football, and nobody spends more time discussing Boise State on a national perspective than Zach Gelb. He had Spencer Danielson on his show 2 hours ago. Zach, that's kind of my first question for you, because we talk with Coach Danielson all the time. What was your takeaway from your interview with Spencer Danielson earlier today on the Zach Gelb show?
Yeah, so I've never had a conversation with him before, but I've had this like unique ability in finding these college coaches when most people don't know much about them. Kalen DeBoer when he was at Fresno State. Matt Rule when he was at Temple. I know Dan Lanning was already at Oregon, but I was on the Dan Lanning train early on. And you just get a certain feel, an it factor when talking to someone. You felt that from Spencer Danielson, because sometimes like coaches could have contrived energy. When I was doing the 15, 17-minute conversation with him, there's no contrived energy there. That is authentic stuff from him. And hey, I like Andy Avalos a lot. I've talked to Andy when he was the coach of Boise State, but there is just a different energy from Spencer Danielson. He reminded me a lot. I said this to him in the conversation. He reminded me a lot of Dan Lanning, quite frankly, when talking to him.
Yeah, and Zach Gelb, we're talking to Zach Gelb. He's the new addition to Idaho Sports Talk. Well, actually, KTIK Radio, 1 to 3 every single weekday leading up to Idaho Sports Talk. And I was going to ask you about Spencer Danielson and Dan Lanning. You like a coach with energy. You like a coach with intensity. You like a coach with passion. And I don't know if we can check more boxes between the two of them because their coaching paths have been completely different, but those three are very common denominators. You like those kinds of coaches, don't you?
Yeah. So, I don't think you need, at Boise because it's so already developed. I don't think you need to have the work ethic necessarily of Matt Rule when you were at Temple, but you had to really sell the program when Matt was at Temple. For Kalen DeBoer, maybe not the most excitement, but you watch on the field, he provides exciting stuff. And then Lanning, I said this to him last year. I said, with all due respect, coach, you're like a football psycho. And I mean that in a great way. You get on the field and there's just a certain passion that overcomes someone. That's what I felt when talking to Spencer Danielson. And I want my coach to have a certain level of football psycho. It sounds mean, but it's not. It's actually the best trait in a coach.
Oh, we're going to steal that phrase, football psycho. I actually love that. That is pretty cool. And because the one thing I love about your show, many things I love about your show, but the one thing that always stands out about you is you always explain the why behind the why. So we just identified a couple of psycho coaches in college football. from your perspective, how is that translated to success on the field? Are psycho coaches always going to be good, or is it a 50-50 shot, or maybe they blow up and they're not so good anymore?
I think the biggest part about being a football psycho is also knowing how to delegate as well. But it's a good thing in terms of having your hand always in the cookie jar, but knowing when to take it out and let the coaches that you hired also do their coaching. Because sometimes when you have a football psycho, they put themselves in every situation and they don't let their coaches that they hired actually coach as well. So there has to be a good delegation part of that so far. And you look at the staff that he has currently in Boise, there's a good mix of younger guys and then also some vets as well.
Zach Gelb joining us from the Zach Gelb Show. You'll hear him at 1 p.m. weekdays right here on Sports Radio, The Ticket. Zach, and you remember this. I mean, there was a time, and it wasn't all that long ago, where you couldn't talk college football without talking Boise State. The underdog, the blue, the flea flickers, the winning, Kellen, just everything that came with it. They were so stinking cool there for a while.
Yeah.
That slipped nationally. Did some of that come back? If so, how much on Saturday with Ashton Jeanty and even the backup, just everything Boise State was able to do? How big was Jeanty's performance nationally?
I think it was incredible. And obviously, I saw the stat that was thrown out there. You look how great Boston College was running the football last night, and Jeanty even outrushed Boston College. And we're talking about 260 something yards. So shout out to Patrick Walsh for throwing out that stat. I saw that on Twitter. So I will give him the credit for that. I'm not intelligent enough to come up with that on my own, even though the numbers were staring me right in the face all day. Here's the problem with college football. And you're right, because when I was growing up, heck, my computer password growing up as a kid was the gal's last name that Ian Johnson proposed to when you had that unbelievable name. My dad and I just absolutely loved it, the Greek last name. Here's the thing, though. When you look at college football right now, the spot for the little guy, like I'm a large man, but I love the little guy in college football. Heck, I went to Temple. It's fading because of name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal. But the little guy has life again now with this 12-team playoff, because the Cincinnatis of the world that got in the 14 playoff, that was an anomaly. Now there's a spot reserved with the Pac-12 fading away for the quote-unquote little guys of college football. And I know it sounds disrespectful to refer to Boise State as a little guy because they've been so dominant and they've been in the news so much throughout the years, but they're like one of the better programs that aren't in now what used to be the Power Five, you want to call it the Core Four, whatever. And there's a legitimate chance for them to make the college football playoff year in and year out. And we'll see if they could do so this year. Now, it's not a lock. You know how this game goes, because it even happened in the New Year's Six Bowl. Like when I was at Temple, one year they won the conference. They didn't get to a New Year's Six Bowl. If they would have won it the year before, they would have been in a New Year's Six Bowl. So it's going to be who else they're going up against. But this year, sure, there's a legitimate chance and a realistic chance that they could be that, I guess it would be the last team in and be that 12th team in the college football playoff.
Zach Gelb, you'll hear him every day, every weekday, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 o'clock right here leading up to Idaho Sports Talk. You can also get him on Sirius XM and so many different other places, the Odyssey app. But we appreciate it if you guys would check him out here on KTIK. The national perspective in terms of Ashton Jeanty here in Boise, everybody's a homer now. We all think he's going to win the Heisman Trophy and blah, 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 blah. If he does what he did the other night 13 more times, yeah, he's going to be in that conversation. That's the big rub. After one game, what is the national perspective? Because we saw the buzz Saturday night, but what is the reality?
I think the national buzz is, I can't wait to see what he does up against Oregon, because you could put those numbers up and it's like, okay, hey, anyone would love to have those numbers in one game. And we know, or I don't know if the nation knows what he did last year, but this is a big test going up against Oregon. I don't think he could win the Heisman Trophy. Let me just say that. Can he be a Heisman finalist? Yeah. If they're a college football team, he could be a Heisman finalist. The thing I'm most impressed by, and maybe it gives me some hope for the sport moving forward for a program like Boise State, is after the great year that he had a season ago, he stayed. Because now you see a guy have like one good year, you would think he'd be at an Alabama or an LSU or whatever program's going to throw in the biggest bag of cash. The fact that Boise was able to keep him Speaks to the NIL department, no doubt about it, but also speaks to Spencer Danielson. And also, let's not forget Ashton Jeanty, because sometimes it just takes the special player to understand maybe what's best for him isn't always just following the money sign. And if a player wants to follow the money sign, I'm never going to rip them for that. But sometimes if you're following the money, it doesn't always lead to the best outcome for the player.
Zach Gelb with us, and I want to shift over to the NFL, Zach, because it's hard to imagine, but dude, we're like 48 hours away from having an NFL season. When the heck did this? And I love it. Just for you, that one massive storyline that punches you right in the face with this NFL season would be what?
Is anyone going to be able to dethrone Kansas City? Think about it. Kansas City hasn't even been at their best the last 2 years, and they've still been better than all the rest. Someone, please. And it's not that I hate the Chiefs, because I don't, but can someone take care of business and dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs this year? Heck, the 49ers have been up by 10 twice against them in the Super Bowl. They haven't been able to slam the door shut. The Eagles were up by 10 in the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, and Mahomes still won another Lombardi trophy. So I want to see who's going to be able to dethrone, if anyone at all, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, and you know where this is going to go, because here in Boise, the number one storyline certainly is Hurts, Eagles, and let's throw in a little Kellen Moore action as well. He's taken over this offense. There's both sides of the fence. Can Kellen Moore be a magic man with this offense, or is Kellen Moore still struggling to gain some traction in the NFL? Kellen Moore's impact on this offense and how you see it over these next 17 games.
He honestly could be the biggest factor in the Eagles season. And let me just say this, and I've shared this sentiment before with you guys. He is overrated. This was a guy when he was with Dallas. I know. Welcome back, Zach Gelb, to Boise, going after Kellen Moore. You could tweet me at Zach Gelb. I'll take all your lovely tweets, by the way. But the thing is, he was supposed to be on a trajectory of being an NFL head coach. That has not happened yet. That hasn't been close to happening. He's now an offensive coordinator again. But if he crushes it in Philadelphia, he will get a head coaching job. And the reason I say that is because the relationship, it's been told a little bit between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. It's not all flowers. It's not roses. It's not a warm relationship. Sirianni's basically handed over this offense, and there is a lot of talent. Like, if Kellen Moore can't win in Philadelphia as the offensive coordinator, where else are you going to win? You have Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. I know Kelsey retires. We still have a heck of an offensive line. This is a last opportunity for a young guy in Kellen Moore to go get a head coaching job if he crushes it in Philadelphia this year.
We're also big fans. Again, Zach Gelb with us, a new member of our KTIK lineup. I can't wait to listen to you every single day leading up to our show, Zach, and appreciate your time, obviously, today. But we're also really big Khalil Shakir fans. We saw him on the blue, and he was clearly one of the best receivers Boise State's had, even if the numbers might not have been there for COVID and whatnot. Buffalo didn't go out and get that big-time receiver. They drafted one in the second round in Keon Coleman. Where are you with Khalil Shakir in his third year working with Josh Allen this year? You think he pops?
I think nationally you would call him an X factor, but in Buffalo they have big expectations for him. And the way I look at this, I still have Buffalo winning the AFC East this year. You know, if you want to tell me the Dolphins win the division or the Jets win the division, I won't call you crazy. I don't think it's inconceivable and you know, crazy to say that. But I really do think that this is a year where Josh Allen set up to win his first NFL MVP, because the expectations have been taken down, have been toned down a little bit for the Buffalo Bills. And I take a look at them, as long as the Bills win the AFC East, and I anticipate them to do so, this is going to be on the arms and the legs of Josh Allen. And you got some other players there, good players. James Cook had a nice season. Dalton Kincaid came on strong at the end of the season. So I look at the Bills once again winning the East, and I do think Josh Allen will win the NFL MVP.
Zach Gelb, one of the smartest NFL guys you'll ever hear on the radio. He's a great follow on Twitter as well. Great information there at Zach Gelb. That's easy to figure out. It's easy to find. Let's talk about Russell Wilson. Now, my partner over here is the greatest Russell Wilson fan of all time. For 10 years, he slept every single night on a Russell Wilson pillowcase. I'm a Steelers fan. And we had
get a life, John. What are we doing?
Well, it gets even worse. We had a ceremony over the summer, and he willed the pillowcase over to me. So I'm now sleeping on this disgusting DNA Russell Wilson pillowcase because I'm a Steelers fan. And I'm hoping that they could just resurrect some kind of magic. Is there any hope left in Russell Wilson this season?
If you would have asked me this question 2 months ago, I would have said, yeah. As we've inched closer and closer to the season, here are my thoughts on the Steelers. They'll always be competitive, but they have fallen. We used to go into a Steelers season and say Super Bowl or bust, and it was legitimate. They haven't won a playoff game since 2016. And everyone tells me about this improved offensive line they have. You can improve an offensive line and still have a bad offensive line. That was a bad offensive line last year. I think it'll be a bad offensive line, maybe average at best this year. And Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, someone needed to go grab the quarterback competition. And it seemed like, okay, Russ just won the job because he's the veteran. No one really actually won this quarterback competition. I do eventually think Justin Fields replaced Russell Wilson. We're gearing up for maybe a below 500 season finally for the Steelers. But if they're 9-8, would it shock me even with bad quarterback play? No, because they made the playoffs last year with bad offensive line and bad quarterback play. I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world if the Steelers bottomed out this year, because then you're picking high up in the draft and you could actually address your quarterback of the future, because they haven't had a great quarterback since, obviously, Big Ben Roethlisberger did leave the organization.
You got an under-the-radar team, Gelb, that you're like, gosh, we're not talking about this team enough nationally. I'm not hearing enough about this. They got really good players. I like their coaching staff. Maybe they didn't make the playoffs last year for whatever reason. That flying under the radar team for Zach Gelb is who?
I think the Jaguars win the AFC South. The Jaguars are in the same spot, or the Texans are the same spot this year that the Jaguars were in last year. Breakout season, went from the bottom to the top. Everyone was expecting the Jaguars have a monster year. They fell back and they were still 9-8. I think Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson win the division. Texans will still make the playoffs. I don't want to say that this is an under the radar team, because if I say the Rams, everyone will be like, oh, what are you talking about? But the Rams to get to a Super Bowl, the Rams, I think, are alive to win the Super Bowl. And when you talk about the NFC, everyone just goes crazy about the Eagles. They go crazy about the Niners, the Lions, the Packers. Even the Bears have gotten some love. I think the Rams are a tad underappreciated heading into this season. And I would not be surprised if Stafford and McVay and Kupp and Puka Nacua are playing on Super Bowl Sunday.
All right, Zach, last question for me. Do appreciate your time again. Zach Gelb is the newest addition to the KTIK family, 1 to 3 every single day right here, talking live and talking football. We do have the history around here. We've had Damon Amendola in Boise. We've had Sean Marash. We've had Andrew Bogusch. We've all brought them out here for shenanigans in Boise, and that includes like early morning fishing trips and late night cocktails downtown Boise. So, Zach Gelb, are we going to get you to Boise one of these days? Have you ever been on the blue turf? Do you need to be on the blue turf?
I would love to go. And let's be real. The reason why Andy Avalos didn't succeed at Boise is we were guaranteeing Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson running out of the tunnel. I saw your face photoshopped on that Prater, and it didn't end up happening. So I would definitely be open to a trip to Boise. The only thing is, I'm surprised the town and right, your great area is still alive after Mraz showed up and drank all your beer, ate all your food, and then somehow got back on a plane with his big butt fitting back in the seat. I just hung out with Mraz. She's one of my close friends all over the weekend watching college football. If he I'll be a nicer guest, I guess, in Boise. I will at least not the politicians there won't have to be concerned about losing the great area.
They gave DA his own day. There's Damon Amendola Day.
It's well deserved.
Every year in Boise, Idaho. Yeah, I mean, he has a day in Boise. Prater is right, Zach. We have to get you here. Heck, maybe you can do your national show from the blue field. You can set something like that up with Boise State and those guys. But this is going to be fun. Zach, we're going to hear your voice constantly. So will our listeners. And it's going to be a really good transition going from Zach Gelb at 1 to Prater on the ball game at 3. Really appreciate your time, man. Can't wait for football season. And keep talking about Ashton Jeanty, bro.
Yeah, no, 100%. We will definitely be making the push. We can't wait to see what happens up against Oregon this weekend. I'd be remiss because, DA and Sean, they really did generate a great relationship with KTIK, and I've been able to experience as well. I know DA is no longer with their network, and Sean's now a big radio superstar on WFAN, but I want to thank you guys as well for making sure I got back in the KTIK lineup, because I've missed it. I've missed interacting with the great people of Boise, and this is going to be a big football season. Let me tell you, I may have picked Liberty before I knew this was happening to get that final college playoff spot. Screw the Flames. We're going with Boise State now.
Nice. There you have it. Zach Gelb, appreciate your time, Zach. Congratulations on being back on in Boise, and we can't wait to hear you every day. Well done.
You got it, guys. Anytime. Thanks so much.
Fun stuff. That's our Dollar Loan Center video segment, funding loans at don'tbebroke.com for 25 years, stores all over in the Boise and Treasure Valley area. Again, that's don'tbebroke.com. We also have David Spade tickets that we're giving away during Rock Jocks today, Prater. We've been so busy with this show, I forgot to even mention that. And in June, I would have led with that. I would have said, David Spade tickets today. Fired everybody up. But
he's kind of a big deal. Like I've heard of him. So if I've heard of him, he's a big deal, right?
Yeah, David Spade's a big name coming to Boise on September 13th. We'll give those tickets away during Rock Jocks and Pop Culture. Until then, let's stay with the NFL, which kicks off in 2 days. JP's got the wheel of NFL headlines. Spin it, JP, when we come back.
From the Beacon Plumbing
connector
Traffic
out of downtown
Studios.
Boise, things start to slow after you get past Cole. Very slow through the merge out onto the westbound lanes. The westbound lanes start to slow before